Are you in the office every day now, or is it just partial? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we're every day now. All right, so you should be good. I think there's one person in the waiting room.
All right, there's someone waiting to come in. Okay, let's see who that is. All right.
All right, have a good meeting.
All right, thank you, Katie.
Thanks.
Hello, Latoya.
Please don't.
Hello.
Oh. Hi, it's Latoya
Hello.
Alexandre. How are you?
Hi, and are you also on the phone? Are you 617-6200-365?
Yes, that's me.
Okay, all right. Welcome.
Thanks a lot.
What brings you here today to this meeting?
I actually live on Driftwood Drive, and I learned that the Open Space Committee was interested in possibly making a park in the conservation land behind this subdivision.
Oh, okay.
So I wanted to find out more about that.
All right, good. Hi, Lauren.
Hello,
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I am official. I went and got sworn in, so I've got my
Oh, great.
seal
Oh,
on the
good.
letter.
Oh, good. That's good. So you can vote.
Exactly.
Yeah, getting a quorum is sometimes a problem, but now that we have you, we have a much better chance.
Well, it's such a beautiful day outside.
It is, yeah. I was gonna take a nap before this meeting and then I thought, no, I think a walk would be better, and that's what I
Yeah.
did.
Nice.
Oh, Kevin's here, all right. Kevin,
Hello.
hi.
Oh,
Good to see
hi.
you. Good to see you.
Yeah, likewise. I'm just in my Jeep right now. Forgive me. I just had foot surgery. So I've been recovering and all this over the past month and a half or so, almost 2 months.
Oh, gosh. Huh. That's too bad.
Yeah, but it's okay. It's a
Okay.
long recovery, but
Oh,
yeah, I've been going crazy. But yeah, I got your email and everything for 4:30 today. So great
great.
to see you.
Yeah. Kevin, this is Lauren. She's our new member.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you too. Yeah, I heard a lot of good things about you. I saw you all in the email and everything on the email thread and all that.
Yeah. Looking forward to getting into it.
Yeah, I have you lived in, I'm assuming you're from Bridgewater, I take it?
Yeah, so I've lived here for a little over 4 years now. So I have a 2.5-year-old, and in normal times I have an hour commute, but being remote, I've been able to get a little time back as my son has gotten older. So that's good.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah. I'm 27 years old. I don't know how old you are, if you don't mind me asking. I know women, yeah, don't ask age at all. Like, I know that's one of the cardinal rules of,
No, that's
but
old school.
is,
That's old school.
is that too old school for me to say? I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, for women to care, I think it's kind of old school.
That's true. That is true. Yeah.
So are you not able to put weight on your foot, or are you like in a walking boot, or are you totally like, I mean, you're driving, so that's a good sign.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm talking to you through my Jeep because I get the most privacy in here as opposed
Yeah.
to inside my house. Because my long story short, my brother's daughter is here, and they're having like a family meeting right now, and I just rather not
Oh,
be
Yeah.
involved in it. But to answer your question, I actually I can walk now with my foot. You can see that my crutches
Oh, yeah.
of my car, but yeah, I can still walk, which is great. So I just began walking about a week ago.
Oh, congrats. That's must be a exciting step.
but you can't
Yeah,
drive, Kevin?
Oh, I'm sorry, what was that?
You can't drive?
Actually I can, because I got
Oh,
my
you
left
can.
foot done, so my right
good.
foot is still functional.
All
So
right.
that's good.
Let's go ahead and get started. Maureen told me she might be here, but it's 4:36, so let's go ahead. I need to announce that this meeting is being recorded, and we do have a member of the public here with us, Latoya Alexandra, who's interested in the Tool property. Michael Dutton may be joining us. The town offices are being cleaned, sanitized, I guess twice a week or something. And so they kick everybody out at 4:30. So he had to leave the office, so he may call in or he may get home in time to get us on Zoom. And Steve Sobel isn't going to be able to come tonight. He's preparing for the Conservation Commission meeting tonight, so.
Excellent.
Yeah, and the first thing I'd like, okay, I think we have a quorum, and the first item is the minutes. Did anybody take a look at the minutes from the last meeting? Nicole, Lauren were there. Any comments?
I did. I did not have any comments.
Yeah, neither
Alright.
did I.
All right, I found one little typo of my own, but I won't even
Oh.
bother mentioning that. I'll fix it.
I didn't see a little squiggly showing that there was a spelling error.
Right. No, actually, it's funny. Yeah, it wasn't. It was like two prepositions or something, and it didn't pick up on it, surprisingly.
Oh,
All right, so a motion to approve the minutes as circulated.
Motion.
All right,
I second.
okay. Nicole? All in favor?
hi, yep.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Okay. So what I have on the agenda is a report from town staff, but as I've said, we'll see if we actually get a report. A number of the things that are for discussion under old business are things that I did get a chance to talk with Michael Dutton about on March 3rd. That was following our meeting. Oh, good, here he is.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I'm just getting my laptop set up right now. Forgive me.
Oh, okay, you're in.
Hi, Michael.
Good afternoon. I apologize for being late.
We're just
Just getting started.
Oh, good.
Yep,
Yep.
you're right on time.
I'm on Bridgewater time.
All we've done is approve the minutes and we were on just opening up to report from town staff. And I know Steve isn't going to be here tonight. He said he had to prepare for Concom.
Okay.
So-
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad I made it. I drove
Yeah.
85 miles an hour to be here.
Oh, that sounds dangerous.
Well, that's slower than I usually drive, so.
So the way I have the agenda set up, Michael, is I have you and or Steve on as item 3, which would be now. A lot of the things I wanted you to mention was what I have under old business, because these are some of the things that you and I talked about on the 3rd, March 3rd, when we met after the last meeting.
Okay.
And our last open space committee meeting. So I think probably what we can do is just jump right down to old business, because I'd like the committee to hear some of the things that you told me when we discussed these items. And then we can jump up back to new business later. And also, we do have a member of the public, Latoya Alexandra, lives
Excellent.
behind, what's the name of the street, Latoya?
Yes, it's Driftwood Drive.
Yeah, okay, that's behind the Tool property area. And so Maureen Manasian, and I think maybe her husband or something took a walk around that property the other day. And I think she saw you, Latoya, is that right? She's muted, but
Yes,
anyway.
that's true. We met.
Yeah. And so Latoya was interested in what was going on and why someone was looking at the property. So that's what we'll go over a
Perfect.
little bit. All right. So under old business, the first thing one of the things we talked about, Michael, what I have here first is the tree ordinance subdivision regulation that we've been talking about the last couple meetings that we've had, that Nicole is very interested in pursuing. And so why don't you tell everybody kind of what you told me about that?
All right. Well, fortunately, I don't remember precisely what I said, but I'll talk a little bit about where we are. The planning board had sent me, actually Elijah, when he was with us, and I think everybody knows he's moved on to OCPC at this point, but
No, I didn't know that. I did hear that I guess maybe I heard it on the town council. So what has he moved on to?
He is a planner. He moved up to OCPC. He's a planner with OCPC, which is
What's
a
that?
great.
What's
Um,
What's OCPC?
The Old Colony Planning
Oh,
Commission
Council.
or a council, yeah.
Okay,
Sure.
regional council, okay.
Yeah, so it's a regional plan. It's the regional planning agency for us, and so he's in a great place. He does, he can really dig into what he's really good at, quite honestly. So kudos to him. But
Are we gonna be able to fill that position?
so Jasmine has moved up to fill that position, and now Jennifer is looking to fill an administrative assistant position. So,
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, which is needed. Anyway, the tree ordinance. So what Elijah had done is he'd sort of done a lot of research and developed possible possible language for a tree. I have it right here actually. Possible language for a tree ordinance, but then also suggested the creation of a tree board, I guess you would call it. Just a board that could give advice on species and where to plant and shade tree management and so on. So that went to the planning board. The planning board liked that idea. Elijah also developed a sort of a process, and it's still got to be worked out a little bit to make sure that it complies, but a process by which developers can, if they're going to cut, X acreage of trees, could then, donate into a fund that would allow us to fund the planting of additional trees. So that's one of the things I think the tree board will really work on, because from a legal perspective, towns can't necessarily require developers to make payments, but there is a way to do it as a mitigation to what is being permitted, and so that's kind of what I anticipate the tree board will work on. The tree board, that's on my list of things to do. I need to get that set up. It's been held up a little bit because we're filling the DPW position, and we also have to fill the roadway superintendent position because Ron Ledoux retired about a month ago. So as soon as we fill those two positions, which I think will be within the next week and a half to 2 weeks, then we'll plow headlong into the tree board. How I populate that, I'm not quite sure. I know I want to make sure that DPW director is on it, roadways superintendent is there, and I think aside from those two, if we get back to the point of having an actual forestry department, or under the DPW, then obviously the forestry person would be on there. And then in terms of board representatives on it, I would anticipate that we might try to get a volunteer from this board, maybe a volunteer from conservation, maybe Parks and Rec, I'm not sure, but that's kind of what I'm looking at in terms of filling a tree board. If there seems to be enough interest outside of our current municipal board structure, just people that say, hey, I'm not interested in Concom, open space, whatever, but I am interested in being on a tree board, then I would certainly entertain that as well. So
that pretty much sounds like what you told me, except for one thing. So I didn't really, this has already gone to the planning board. I didn't realize that.
Well, it's the planning board has heard the planning board quite a while ago heard the concept, and they liked the concept and they endorsed it and then sent it to me, asking that I create sort of an ad hoc tree board. So now it's in my court.
So
have to do it.
Michael, just so you know, I also did some research, so I'd be happy to share what I found. And specifically, I found just a really interesting, article in the basis for what a certain town, I forgot the name of the town in Connecticut, was doing.
Oh,
And it
good.
just really like resonated. It really seemed, at least in some of the conversations we've had on the open space committee, specifically about clear cutting large tracts of trees, I guess seems to be perhaps more critical than, focusing on every little tree around the town that's going to be cut down. I mean, that seems kind of like a Newton and Wellesley kind of thing that they're
Mm.
doing, but what's more critical to the open space is just clear cutting large tracts of forest. And that's not as easy to find because a lot of the tree ordinances come from the places like the Newtons and the Wellesleys and the
Exactly.
Westons. So I was looking around for some that have some good language about the clear cutting issue. So I'm happy to package that all up and send that to you. I sent it to our committee.
I would love to
Um,
see that because that really would help me, begin to create sort of the bones of what I guess would be sort of an updated shade tree ordinance.
Yeah.
Or give to Jennifer to update planning board rules and regs. So I would definitely take that. And I think I have a digitized version of what Elijah did, so I can share that with
cool.
all of you. Yeah, just to give you an idea of what, kind of we were thinking.
Hmm.
There-
I imagine.
Oh, go ahead, Maureen.
Oh, no, sorry. I don't mean to interrupt. I
Oh, that was
was
Kevin.
just going to say, I imagine Connecticut's very similar to Massachusetts in that regard too, as far as clear cutting trees and in how the development is going on from neighboring New York and just the influx of people in Connecticut. I was in Connecticut last 2 weeks, last week, and it was just when I started to go driving, but I noticed that a lot of places are just clear cutted in Connecticut for new development. So
Yeah.
I think that sounds great.
Yeah, and I think, the research that Nicole did, our discussions at the last meeting were around the value of mature older trees. So mitigating through donating money to plant new trees is good, should be done, but that's not gonna, sort of meet the goal of preserving older, larger trees.
Exactly.
It takes a lot longer to have old growth than new growth.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder to get that back. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's critical habitat and, everything else with the Taunton River. And, so really what some of the language I was looking for is ways in which during the survey is required as part of the, planning process anyway, and the design process, but to actually, take it a step further and tag and flag trees of a certain caliper and larger and find a way, develop a plan to really protect that. And there were these different ideas about protecting a certain amount of the buffer around, the lots. Of course, you've got to cut through for your driveway and such, but it would really make for nicer subdivisions anyway if the large trees were kept. And, it makes it easier to clear cut for sure, because you can do substantial regrading and everything else. But
So one of the things, funny, Nicole, that you say that, because one of the objections, not objections, when I first came to Bridgewater, I mean, it was very noticeable to me that, that developments were just being clear cut and houses being put in. And I asked somebody, I don't even remember who it was, probably a developer. I said, don't you, isn't there a substantial value to preserving, old growth trees? Doesn't that increase the value of the house that you're able to sell? And to me, that I would pay a premium to live in a house, a newly built house that had some mature trees around it.
Yeah.
And the response I got was that there's a sort of a clash between that, that kind of the desire to keep old growth or keep some, degree of undisturbed property. And then the drainage requirements that a lot of these new developments require. And I took that at face value, so I never really dug much into that. But I wonder how much of that is really true, whether there's, a real, stormwater infrastructure reason to just have to clear cut everything. Be interesting to sort of get to the bottom of that one.
Absolutely.
It seems like all the new developments in Bridgewater specifically and I'm sure this is true for other towns around Massachusetts and what have you, but I think when I look at all the new developments, they're all just, it's all clear cut. You know, it's like mowing a lawn. It's like all just, and they want that gradient, you know, there, so everything's nice and level, and it's easier to build. But that's all I see. I never see a mature trees in new developments now.
Yeah.
No.
And to be
can't remember.
honest,
When we talked about it, Michael, I think the one subdivision I was familiar with, and it was in Harvest Lane, which is, you know, was about 20 years ago, and it was brand new, but they just managed to leave some trees along the edge of the property lines, basically.
Yeah.
And it's so much different than what they've done over in Cherry Street. And I don't know anything about the subdivision regulations in Bridgewater, but I mean, there are smart growth principles and that can provide incentives to developers for cluster lots and stuff like that. And we don't see any of that happening anywhere here either.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah. And
oh, go ahead, Nicole.
oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, you know, to be honest, if you really do a detailed drainage analysis, maintaining naturalized vegetation actually completely helps with the drainage, you know, so you should be able to do kind of all of the above, take credit for the natural vegetation. I mean, I have great examples of just things that I have observed. For example, I was doing some consulting in Middleborough, and they had some major drainage issues in the Oak Point development. And most of the issues actually are in the newer phases where they started kind of getting, you know, a little ambitious and completely clear cutting and building it out. When you go to the original phase one, where you can tell they planned it, they carved out the little lots, they kept trees. There's no drainage issues. There's no little like both localized and major widespread drainage issues that you have in the other parts, because when you start disturbing those soils, it is so hard to get them back to being, you know, in that natural condition. You're regrading and you're just mixing it all up. So
Yeah,
I mean, there's definitely drainage benefits.
That's interesting. I think it would be worthwhile to really dig into that issue because I agree. It makes me cringe. And I don't consider myself any kind of, you know, well, maybe I do actually. You know, I was going to say any kind of like, you know, zealous, you know,
Tree hugger.
Tree hugger.
Tree hugger. That's the
I
word I was
am.
looking for. But it does. I mean, believe me, I've cut down my fair share of trees for firewood, but that's a whole different story.
That's, yeah, I think.
But
that's
it
different,
does.
yeah.
It just makes me cringe because I look at, you know, developments that have been just clear cut, and I can't fathom what's attractive about a neighborhood like that. And maybe that's just me. Maybe people don't. Literally, we had the subdivision out on you know, we called it Pratttown. I don't know what it's behind Station 2. We had reports that, you know, the part of the requirement was the developer had to plant trees, you know, a certain number of trees on each lot, and which is a requirement. In that case, it was ZBA, but they mirrored the planning board rules and regs. So you have to plant trees on at least one tree on each lot or whatever it was. And the developer couldn't get an approval on whatever the 5 houses that he had done, because every time he planted a tree, somebody would come and yank it out. You know, somebody in the neighborhood would come and yank it out. And clearly, you know, there's a thought out there that, no, we don't want any trees. Trees are bad. And I can't, that's just such a foreign concept to me. But it is out there. I mean, that's, you know, so literally, I think I don't know whatever happened. I think he actually had to put a, you know, camera out there, maybe a wire fence or something around the poor little, you know, 2-inch tree. Make sure it didn't get cut down.
Michael,
pulled out.
What's the minimum lot requirement these days for new development per household? What's the minimum?
Well, it depends where you are. And that's a good question. I'm not sure. It depends which residential zone you're in, I think. So lot size obviously in downtown is going to be different than lot size out of town. But to bring up something that somebody touched on a few minutes ago, we do have sort of I can't remember what we call it in our zoning, open space development. And I think once we finally get this recodification done of the zoning, I think we're going to be coming back and looking to, incent or really encourage more open space development, which means you can cluster development. You can cluster your residential units and create, an area of undisturbed open space as part of your development. So it gives you the ability, and from a municipal perspective, it makes water installation easier and less expensive for us. Maintenance, long-term maintenance of water lines, sewer lines, all of that, it makes it much less expensive if the houses are clustered together. And then the societal benefit, obviously, is that you get, undisturbed open space preserved in perpetuity as part of that development. So we do have it. Hasn't been exercised much. It has a few times, and I don't recall the
So
development.
you're saying, you said we do have it. You mentioned the recodification of the zoning, but that's been in there up till now, the cluster
Yep,
development?
it has been in there. It's been used sparingly, and I know that there's a real incentive to try to somehow incent its use. Encourage people to do that instead of, what we've just talked about, the sprawling, kill every tree,
Mhm.
kill every bug, and put up boxes.
Yeah.
So
The
Yep.
one example I found was somewhat interesting because it, if you were to just think about a single lot or a few lots, we have the setback requirements, the rear and the side and the front. So basically, if you even just work within what those setbacks are, right, the non-buildable space, I believe one of the examples I found didn't allow you to disturb more than, I forgot what it was, 20 or 30% to put your driveway in and whatever. In other words, it really required you to try to keep intact the buffer around but of course you can clear all the scrubby stuff out and stuff, but if you focus on a certain caliper tree that you can't remove any, it would just help with, planning that out and protecting those for sure.
yeah, if you send that along to me, I'd be very
Yeah.
curious to see it. It would probably really help.
Okay.
When
I will
we
do
start
that.
drafting something, it'd be a big help.
And I did tell you, Michael, that Nicole's quite willing to be on this tree board.
I got that sense.
I gave him your name last time, Nicole. So, yeah, so I think, I think we do have some tree huggers here. And I think this is a really important one for us to push.
Good.
How about just sustainability lovers? That sounds like a better.
Oh, yeah,
We're all of the
tree huggers
above.
not official.
We love sustainability, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is a climate change issue, non-disturbance of soils, and it's everything,
It's everything.
Yeah. Well, especially in a place like Bridgewater. I mean, Bridgewater is such, already has water issues to deal with anyway. So making matters worse certainly doesn't help us long term. So,
Right. Yeah.
point well taken.
All right.
Yeah.
Good. All right. So let's move on to the Tool property. So I was at the Community Preservation Committee open forum last night, and this came up there as well. I understand, and you can confirm this, Michael, that this is one of, somebody said, I think maybe it was Matt Rushton, was on that call, that this is one of the 3 sites that's being considered for the fire station. Is that correct?
That is, so yeah, that is correct. So that is one of 3 sites, and it is one of 3 sites selected by the Fire Station Building Committee. Doesn't mean that it's any of those 3 are the sites that will eventually be selected, but it is one of 3 sites. So let me back up and just tell you a little bit about the Tool property, and some of you may know much more than I do about the Tool property, but it was given to the town. I believe after the death of the Tools who lived there. I think it's roughly 9 acres. and it was given for the purposes of, I want to say open space and recreation, or Maureen might remember, but I think that was a while back, probably in the 90s or 2000s.
That's what I remember. It's supposed to be passive recreation.
Right.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, it's not, it's a difficult area for us to create, do much with. I think that they also left a little bit of money, which we still hold, and haven't done anything with. But it, as I say, it's about a 9-acre parcel. It fronts, it's got frontage on Pleasant Street, and it abuts, I believe it abuts the National Grid sort of substation there at the corner of Elm Street and Pleasant. And I think that there was a house on it, and I think the house, when they gave it to the town, one of the stipulations was that the town tear the house down, and which we did, I believe. So that that is right now, since it is one of the 3 options that the fire department is looking at for a substation, that obviously would not be an open space use of that property. And so the town's attorney is looking at the details of the gift and the transaction, just to see if it's even feasible that property could be used, or a portion of that property could be used for a fire station. So that's kind of the so that's kind of where it stands now. If that property, if it did come to pass, and if that property ever did get to be the chosen site, what we're told is that the actual fire station needs are about 2.5 acres. And I think it would probably be, be very safe to say that we wouldn't want to completely alter the intent of the use of that property any more than necessary. So any fire station that would get built there would obviously front Pleasant Street pretty close. And then the back part of that property, I think my preference would be not to touch it. And at worst, create some sort of trail back there.
It's mostly wetlands back there, correct? I believe.
I know there is wetlands back there. I don't know if that precludes a connection. I think, Eileen, you and I talked about this. I'm not sure if that precludes any kind of connection over to the backside of Murray Farm property.
Yeah, I remember someone said that it was mostly like wetlands, like around the surrounding part of the development property there, which actually makes perfect sense for a fire department, really.
Mm.
Just to get in from 104, you have to, it's wet to get in through there. So
that's
curious
interesting.
how to do that, how you gonna do that?
So right on the frontage, then it's got wetland. Oh, that's
No
interesting.
wetlands,
Well,
yeah.
that'll we'll see where that comes out in the analysis, because obviously if there's a lot of wetland remediation to do, then that's going to be a costly proposition. So it probably would rule that site out. But
What's the
But
time?
We don't want to make the same mistake as the elementary school with the wetlands. That was a disaster. Okay, sorry.
What's the time frame for the decision on the fire station location, Michael?
it is. We're not under pressure. Let's put it that way.
Oh.
I mean, we're under pressure just because the existing firehouse is a not in good shape, but we're not under pressure in terms of definitely having a date by which we have to move out of there and into something else. So we've got a little bit of time. We're also, just to give you a little bit of background, we're also looking at the Hale Street property, which Bridgewater State University is willing to talk about developing in conjunction with us. So developing in terms of a shared municipal BSU use.
Mhm.
Where's that property for the college there? They're willing
The
to.
old, you know where it's the old nail factory, I think. They tore it down, they bought it and tore it down. It's right along Hale Street and the track, between Hale Street and the tracks.
Yep, I know exactly where. Yep,
Yeah.
I know exactly where that. Yeah, that'd be a cool spot. I like that spot.
It's a great spot for everything that we need. It's a great spot for what BSU is looking to do with us. The only issue is it's a pretty narrow spot. So we're trying to sort of figure out if we could do something there.
That's true. Yeah, well, that doesn't seem like a huge hurdle in my opinion, but yeah, well, that'd be cool. That'd be something to look into.
One thing I want to mention, Maureen and I were both on the Community Preservation Committee open forum last night. And Carlton Hunt did present a drawing of the Toole property with a suggested, or just his graph of trail connecting that to the Murray Needs farm. And I mentioned this to you, I think I did, Michael, didn't I mention that? Yeah. And
Yeah.
we talked about it on this committee before too, because he and I went out there once and walked around and we're brainstorming about Murray Needs farm has no parking. Toole property does. Let's find a way to get to Murray Needs from Toole. And then I talked with Joan Pierce from Fish and Game, State Fish and Game, and she's quite familiar with that property and thought it was much, much too wet to do anything like that, that it would require like a mile-long boardwalk or something. But anyway, Carlton still kind of likes the idea, I guess, because he put it up on the screen last night as something that's a concept. We haven't gotten any further than that. But
well, if honestly, I think if you could do an appropriate sort of boardwalk through the wetland, I think that's something that we don't have. That I'm aware of, and I think that would be a great sort of a great educational opportunity, and something that CPC could actually fund. So
yeah, that was one of the things I brought up at one of the CPC meetings I went to, is whether CPC can fund some sort of a consultant study, because somebody would have to take a really good look at it. It's not something where you can just go out and, eyeball it and say, oh, this would work or not. It would be a huge engineering review. And that would have to be paid for before we would even know if it was feasible. But I think it all depends on what happens with the fire station. So I think we just want to sit tight on this for a while.
Well, even, quite honestly, even if the fire station, the preliminary discussions I've had about the use of that site, even if a fire station was to go there, that wouldn't preclude the use of a piece of the property for parking and accessing a trail at all, and it shouldn't. But as I say, that's kind of where that one stands.
Okay, I want to, Latoya, if you want to ask questions, I know that's why you're here today. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask whatever you'd like about this particular property.
Yeah, so my understanding is that it's conservation land. And with the wetlands, I was under the impression that you really couldn't do any development there, because the whole idea would be to conserve and preserve, the existing nature or wildlife. So how is it that now it's, I guess, being considered that you want to build something there?
So it's not currently deed restricted, and it's not been added to any conservation. It doesn't have a conservation restriction on it, and I think unfortunately, I think everybody was given that impression when the house was given to the town. That predates me by a lot, but if there are wetlands in there and there are significant wetlands that preclude any possible use, other use, then effectively nothing can happen in there. And as I said before, if the fire station, even if the fire station ended up going there, it's 9 acres. The fire station you wouldn't be able to push the fire station back into that property anyway, just because of how it gets used. So that would preserve the back portion. But it's honestly a premature conversation, because we don't know if. So the only thing that binds the town is the intent that was demonstrated when the transfer happened. There was no, other than the intent, there's no legally binding restriction on that property. So that's, to me, if it's a great spot for the fire station, great. But if not, once we get through that process, we want to make sure that we I won't say fix, but we want to make sure that the intent of what probably should have been a restriction is created. But in the meantime, it's going through the review process, and as I say, if there is wetland and there's not enough upland to do anything, then it'd be crossed off the list.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. I had one more question.
Sure, go ahead.
So in the event that this does move forward and it is determined that you can do something with it, will the abutters be, formally notified?
Yep, a town project is no different, excuse me, than really any other building project. So my assumption is that you'd have, they probably would have to go through conservation, go through planning board. So correct, that the abutters would be notified about site plan or conservation. One of those two, certainly.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
Well, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Latoya. You're welcome to stay on if you don't have anything better to do. If anything else interests you on the agenda.
No, thank you for having me. Actually, it was very interesting, your talk earlier about just the clear cut, removing all the trees and then building versus preserving what's there and kind of keeping some of the natural landscape. I think that's a great idea that you guys are discussing. So I am going to go though, but thank you.
All right. Feel free
Yeah,
to join us
thanks, Latoya.
anytime.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Okay, so now let's move on to Jenny Leonard Park, another one that we talked about last time. And Michael, I know after I talked, you mentioned to me that there had been an issue. First of all, let me step back. I think at the last meeting, I mentioned that this was some place that had been set aside and that the part left to the town by a family and neglected over the years. Nicole had been out there. I've been out there since too, and there's nothing left. There's no playground equipment or anything. And its subdivision has popped up around it on 3 sides, and then the other side is on Cherry Street. And the question was, Michael, you mentioned to me, I think that the Latola developer had agreed to something about with that park as part of the development of that subdivision. And after we spoke, Steve Sobel sent a letter to 2 people in the planning department. Leslie Dorr, and I think it was Jasmine was the other one, whether they had anything, and they haven't gotten back to me, and I've followed up. But I've since talked to Charlie Simon as well, and he explained that property has been sold. I guess the Latolas have transferred it to the people who did Bridgewater Preserve.
Correct. Yep. The I think Long-Built Homes.
Yes, Long-Built Home. That's right. Yeah. But then last night at the CPC forum, Carlton had a design, a graphics of some place that he said was from planning department. It was part of the subdivision, the permit. that showed a little parking area and it looked like stairway going up into that park, that Jenny Leonard 12 acres. And perhaps that's where they got maybe as far as that and then found out that it wasn't universally accessible, which was the hang up that you had mentioned.
Hey, well, right. So when, excuse me, I apologize for my allergies.
Oh, no worries.
When Jenny Leonard was, well, Jenny Leonard obviously was a playground, evidently popular some years back. And for some reason, I don't know why, but was abandoned and sort of left to decay. I think at the time, you know, it had restrooms, you know, obviously playground equipment and all that stuff. So when the Latolas came into the planning board to do their permitting, they did spend some time discussing, you know, trying to you know, really renovate or rebuild. I guess rebuild be a better phrase at this point. Rebuild Jenny Leonard Park, and I think as part of the approval, the Latolas committed to creating parking, you know, sort of adjacent to the Jenny Leonard Park, and they offered at the time. I don't think it ever got translated into the decision, but it offered at the time to help, you know, offer whatever help they could to try to, you know, do whatever, you know, brush clearing or what have you, to help bring the park back. There was some talk about actually, you know, making a contribution, but I don't think that ever happened because it was unclear at that point. This was now, mind you, probably 5 or 6 years ago. I don't think there was any clear idea whether or not that park should be, you know, rebuilt. So, you know, we've got now, fast forward 5 or 6 years, and you've got, you know, 90 plus, I don't know how many more homes in that whole general area. So there probably is, you know, I don't think you'd really need to do a needs assessment to figure out that there is a need for some sort of park out there. You know, we've got one sort of on the west side of town. It'd be nice to have something on the other side of town as well. So I don't think, you know, I know, in fact, I know, well, actually I take that back. I'm not sure what Parks and Rec Commission is really thinking about Jenny Leonard, but I do think it probably needs to get on the radar. And, you know, it really could be a perfect amenity to all the development that's happened out there. And I'd rather have that, obviously, than, you know, absolutely nothing for little kids to do. So that's really where that one is. I talked to Jennifer, who on occasion does site visits, you know, as part of, you know, reviewing the development and see if it compares to the plan. And I think she said that she was almost sure that the Long-Built had actually built, you know, parking spaces in there to accommodate people that might want to go. Okay. What Eileen was referring to about the accessibility, I guess there's a grade there that makes it very difficult for us to try to create something that would be accessible to the folks that use those parking spaces to get in. I haven't gotten into that site, you know, walked into that site myself, so I don't know. But again, this is one that probably, you know, once we get our DPW set up and we can, you know, have fully functioning office, we could probably have a site engineer go out and start to try to plan how we would make that accessible, you know, using the natural terrain. So there's got to, put it this way, there's got to be a way, you know, even if you've got to do switchbacks, you know, for some length, but there's got to be a way to do that. So And then over and above that, when we get to the point of actually putting equipment in there, I think that's one that hopefully we can handle through CPC. Playground equipment is outrageously expensive. I now know, having had to replace some pieces at Marathon Park. It's kind of insane. So.
Yeah, and after talking to Charlie, it certainly isn't anything that the Parks and Rec Commission has actively considered, but it seems like it ought to be, given, as you say that, I mean, the amount of development over on that side of town and the use that Marathon Park gets it's so, intense that, but the other thing is, it seems to me that it's really a Parks and Rec issue, and that's rather than this committee.
Yeah, it is, but as I've mentioned before, I think the beauty of Open Space Committee is that you've got your interests sort of overlay a lot of other committees, and one of the things, and I would encourage you to take the lead. One of the things that we don't do often enough in Bridgewater is have joint committee meetings, or just have committees meet together to talk about, where those things overlap. Your committee in conservation, I know is just sort of, focused on wetlands protection, but really they hold conservation restrictions on a lot of the parks that we have. So, so you do have, some planning overlap there. And so it's good to have that. Same thing with Parks and Rec. You definitely, have some overlap there. And nothing precludes you from getting together and having discussions.
Yeah, well, I know Charlie's response was that he basically can't take care of the parks we have, which we know to be the case. So, why give him yet another one? But
Yeah.
I mean, I think, as you say, it's CPC funds and oh, no, okay. So what that brings me to is the other thing that was mentioned last night is that I guess there's good news that we may be going ahead and hiring a park steward after all.
Well, if I hear through the grapevine that there is somebody who's interested in applying. That's been our problem. We have had multiple jobs out there. In some cases for a couple of years, and mostly more technical water and sewer jobs, but also honestly this one has been out for a couple of years. We thought we had somebody that did apply, and then I think she backed out. So
I thought it had been removed when COVID hit, that it had been taken off of the.
Well, we pretty much did a freeze on everything when COVID first hit, because we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know if we were going to be, all savages, in the streets grubbing for food, or, who knew what was going to happen. So I think we're in a better place now. I mean, maybe we're all just living a fantasy world, and that's going to come to pass. But I think we're in a better place, quite honestly, at this point. So.
Okay.
So it's back in the budget, and if we haven't put it, I'm pretty sure we put it back up as a job posting. But if we haven't, I know that we will be soon, because we know that there's somebody that's interested.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, because that seems so critical. I mean, it's kind of sad at that Leonard Park. There's a nice stone that's. That has the names of all the people who donated it. And there was an article in the Enterprise back then, and whenever it was set up, that it was a whole group of volunteers that were taking care of it. And then for whatever reason, who knows why they didn't keep it up. But so then it's just, it's just ruined. And it seems like putting money into things, and unless the town can guarantee that it's going to be maintained, I just as soon leave it just as it is, rather than try to organize something and then no guarantees that it'll be usable by anyone.
Well, we do have a sort of a mantra in our capital planning that we're not going to buy whatever, whether it's a vehicle, a piece of equipment, property, what have you. We're not gonna do any kind of capital upgrade or any kind of purchase unless we know that we can care for it. So that is, that's sort of very basic. And I think for a long time, we had, and we still have a really incredibly dedicated core of volunteers that do an awful lot, and probably too much, because, you can't have, it's like having, it's like having a town hall and expecting volunteers to come and, wash the windows or fix the trim or paint, that's not what you do. And so I'm really optimistic that over the next, now that we're getting very close to really getting a DPW in place, and not just sort of as a piece of paper, I'm very confident that we'll be able to start really addressing, the critical needs, and that it's really a DPW. That's who's going to take care of, emptying the trash, picking it up, maintaining, the grass or the bushes. Charlie, the way it's been set up and sort of worked for a long time is Charlie, so almost a one-person show. Cuts the grass at Legion Field, runs the golf course, does at least organizes the rec leagues, and he's I don't know how he does it all, quite honestly, but he does it with a smile, so he must love what he does.
He's probably the most cheerful town employee that I know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think he's cheerful because he never has to go to indoor meetings a whole lot, so that's what keeps him up.
I can see that.
I think that talking about this at a joint meeting, with Parks and Rec would be great, because if there's, to have a playground or something that requires a lot of maintenance isn't really in the cards, maybe there is, more passive opportunities that we could do at the site. I mean, you see a lot of people commenting about, like, there's no dog walk, there's no dog parks, and this is nice and it's in the trees, so maybe something that doesn't require a massive amount of construction and could be just done with simple, fencing or, something to that effect could be a possibility. My only other thought too would be, and I know it's too late for given that this development is already through, but in the future, I wonder if there's any way that if there's any mechanism for, large developers to need to put money in a fund for long-term maintenance associated with open space that would be accessible to the public. So like if there was a long-term maintenance plan for this property and, say it was a playground and they were required to build the playground, well, it's going to, it costs $6,000 a year to maintain it. So they would need to give you the budget for, 20 years or whatever the usable life of it is up front in some sort of like a bond or something. I don't know if there's it's done in cities, but I just didn't know if we have any mechanism to do anything like that.
There probably is a mechanism. My guess would be, and I probably would agree that, if you're building, well, I think the short answer, Nicole, is yes. I think there is a mechanism, but from a developer's perspective, and probably not even the developer, more so the homeowner, you're buying a house, and which I don't even know how much those houses are now. I heard some outrageous amounts of money the other day, but whatever. But if you're buying a house and you're going to pay taxes based on what you probably roughly pay for that house, then don't my taxes go towards, maintaining, this playground over here, which is open for the entire town. Yeah. And there is something to be said for that. So I do think that, and which is a perfectly fair question, but I do think, there is a mechanism to do those kinds of things. And that's exactly the discussion that would be good to have with the planning board or with Jennifer, when just talking about, rules, planning board rules and regs, and what they can require and what they can't.
Yeah, if I just one thing I just like to throw out there is that, like, from my experience with the park, The park that was right next to the soccer fields back in the day, and I think it's still there. The one that it got all decayed, everything
Oh,
from
yeah, Rainbow's End is gone.
Rainbow's End. That's all gone now, right?
That's gone. Yep.
Right. Okay, yeah. But I just remember one thing that because I remember I used to play there when I was like 5, you know. But I remember there was all the pine trees that were surrounding the whole park, and the pine trees is what really destroyed everything quick. So I'm just throwing it out there, just because I've seen that with the Rainbow's End. Anything that has like a park and little kids are playing in there, and if there's a lot of something that I've noticed is if there's a lot of trees around there, it really decays a lot of the equipment. Granted, a lot of that was like wood stuff, but I think the newer ones are plastic now, so I think it's better. But I just know that trees around equipment like that, it really makes it dirty and dingy, and you get the sap and all that kind of makes it pretty bad quick.
Sounds like the sunshine's destroyed some of the equipment at Marathon though, right? I mean,
Mhm.
Yeah.
there's not a
Yeah.
tree in sight there.
Well, there is a movement for like, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say that the sort of recent trend in playgrounds is these sort of naturalistic
Yeah.
sites that makes use of, like, you know, tree stumps and like things for children to climb on that are like occurring in nature, not necessarily plastic equipment. So
Yeah.
that might be
Absolutely.
something to think about for a site like that, given that people are moving from cities. That's sort of something that people might have in mind to be
So
looking
that's a really good point. And if I probably have the plan in my office, but the McElwain School, so when that gets rehabilitated into apartments, one of the things that they're doing is installing exactly that kind of playground. So it will be, and I was going to say, wouldn't that be kind of appropriate in a place, that's clear cut every tree? If you had a playground that it was actually made up of the natural components, remind kids what trees are a little bit.
little jumping logs and rocks and the big hay bales and things like that.
But I think a fenced-in dog park too would be hugely popular.
It could be both. Yeah.
Yeah.
So since I haven't done a walk around Jenny Leonard, and I guess I probably shouldn't even ask this because it's not a good idea, but at Jenny Leonard, could you have a play area and then also a fenced in dog park? Is there enough space for that?
Oh, I don't know.
A little dog
Park, yeah.
area.
Well, if you want to do a dog park, we want to do it right, because if a dog's got to go out, then he's going to need some space to run around, and if it was too, rather have smaller than, but
Given that that's, I would think a lot of young families with children out there, I would think that might, that the playground would probably go over a lot better with the residents than a dog park, just because.
Yeah,
I wouldn't want other people coming into their area with their dogs. But anyway, let's move on. We don't need to decide that today, and we have some other things to get through here. So, but anyway, it sounds like there are some issues we can follow up with that with some of the other committees. So great. All right. So uniform signage. Michael, when you and I talked, you mentioned that Styles and Hart was I think maybe Steve told me was a couple years out before you would be getting to the point of actually designing signs. Does that sound right? And then the Ironworks project, that mitigation effort for taking the bridge out, is also for the rest. I've mentioned this for the rest of the committee last time, is that there's the opportunity to maybe get a consultant as part of the mitigation effort, the mitigation that the town will get because of the removal of that historic structure, to include signage that explains the historic nature of the area, and that would include creating some sort of a design that could serve as a template for other parks And we've talked about the need for signage and direction signals and direction signs and stuff like that. So what I think this one also there seems to be a lot of push for this. It came up again last night at the CPC meeting. Monica Bentley talked about going out to Wyman Meadow and how it's impossible to find it. And that isn't one we've even discussed because it's like nobody even knows it exists. So focus on the parks that have some recognition publicly, but I think we should probably look a little bit at Wyman Meadow too. But anyway, it's in all of our planning documents over the years. And I know, Michael, I know you're supportive of it. I would rather not wait if we can get some ideas rather than waiting for Stiles and Hart and Ironworks to get finalized. I'd like to figure out some way for us to move this forward. And I brought it up at CPC just as kind of through the idea of the Community Preservation Committee a few months ago. And Kevin, you were on one of the calls we had too to discuss this the last time about how we need to have an estimate. You know, we need to have somebody who can say it will cost X amount to even to get a consultant to look into some kind of a design or a design firm to put something together for us, figure out where signs should be placed, where in the trails they need to go, how high they need to be, what the font needs to be, you know, for accessibility, all that stuff. It's not something that we can just get a group of volunteers to go out and do. So I would like to pursue that with CPC, but I feel like we need to have some support to do it, but we need the help. And I hate to just wait till we see how Stiles and Hart and Ironworks develop over the next year, because
So I
any
think you're
idea
talking
how to move it more quickly than otherwise.
than molasses.
Right.
So I think you're talking about two things which are related but different. One is you know, consistent signage throughout the park system and ideally throughout the town. That's one, and then the specific signage needs for the parks. You know, in the cases that we're talking about, Ironworks and Stiles and Hart, those are sort of coming up. You know, one because we are focusing on Stiles and Hart, and then two because of the mitigation process that we're going through with High Street. So on the you know, I agree. I think hiring I'm not quite sure who you would hire, whether it be a, you know, sort of a park planner, a trail planner, I guess, to give us an idea of the type of signage that we need to place, you know, throughout the trail system. And I'm certainly not one for over signage, but you know, you need something there. And then you know, trying to find, I think Eileen, we talked about, we tried to come up, we had a grant, a state grant, and it was a sort of it's not my favorite state grant when they give you, you know, technical money, but they also tell you who you have to hire to do the work. But anyway, it was a you know, little bit of money, and we had a designer come in who'd done a bunch of other towns in the state, and he gave us, you know, some signage, you know, sort of branding and signage designs that pretty much looked like every other town in the state. And that didn't, you know, we presented that to the council. That didn't really go over too well. And so there was really no inclination for the council to make a decision. So we went back, we found a young lady who had graduated, or was either, I think had graduated from BSU with some sort of graphics design, you know, degree. And she had started her own little company. And so she came in, gave us, you know, did for a couple $100, gave us an interesting design. And so we presented that to the council, and got pretty much the same thing, that nothing, you know. And it taught me a lesson, you know, you can't get 9 people to agree on, you know, very much. So I'll leave it at that, but it probably would help. And it's probably something, you know, I can't really think of a better committee, but if open space wanted to sort of tackle, you know, sort of the concept of what consistent signage should look like, you know, we could start small, perhaps, you know, start with Ironworks, which will probably, well, I don't know, actually, regardless, start with Ironworks, Styles and Hart, and then just sort of begin to adopt and expand out, you know, do the parks with you know, that kind of consistent brand or consistent design, and then just begin to incorporate that throughout town. Because I just don't envision that the town council is going to have a strong opinion about a very specific design. So I think, you know, I know actually Parks and Rec has gone through this. They've, you know, just, you know, they got a new sign at Legion Field, which was, if I recall, was not dissimilar in design to the old sign, but you know, we do need signage. We need good signage that shows, you know, what our, you know, town parks are, what our assets are, and then, quite frankly, we need to get rid of a lot of signage that is old and rotten and
Michael, I just
present as well.
quick question on that. Just popped in my head. Is it possible for when we hire the Parkland Steward position, and when that's established and everyone's in the groove on that front, would that be someone that could help us with signage once that position is filled, possibly?
It could probably help, my guess, and you know, obviously it depends, but on who we hire. But my guess is they could help us install signage. I don't know and possibly provide suggestions, you know, if there's some expertise there. But I think if we're going to do the job that we really need to do in both Ironworks and Styles and Hart, then, you know, let's just get the professional to come in and tell us, you know, where we should be placing signs, what kind of signs those should be, and go that route. In the case of Ironworks, and actually Styles and Hart as well, you know, there, as Eileen pointed out, there's going to be interpretive signage. So, you know, getting the historic commission to become involved in, you know, what do you want to put on this, you know, 3x5 sign, or this, you know, whatever size 3x4 sign. You know, usually they have a picture of what historically, in the case of Ironworks, you know, what Ironworks looked like, you know, 100 years ago. And then there's a you know, a blurb that tells you what activities went on there back in the day. Or, you know, a picture of the old bridge with a, you know, a description of when that bridge was actually built. You know, there was, I guess we've now done research to know that there was a bridge there as early as like 1690 something. And we think that the bridge, part of the bridge that you can see there now, dates from sometime in early 1700s. So there, you know, it's a really cool stuff, and that's kind of what interpretive signage is. But, you know, having a designer come in and tell us, you know, how that should look, and what pictures really will resonate, is what we really would be paying for. You know, then we have to figure out sort of the you know, are we going to use a logo with consistent font, colors, so forth, and those are things that need to be fleshed out. And
and Ironworks will be probably the most complicated of all of them, because there is the historic aspect and the you know, the stones that they're trying to preserve and stuff like that, and something like Carver Pond is a much simpler case, I think, where the volunteers have done a pretty nice job with the signs there. You know, the trails are actually marked, and so that can be sort of the simpler template. And I mean, but again, it's having some professional advice from somebody who can walk in. I mean, actually, Steve Sobel had a trail seminar. Well, I can't remember, you know, it was like a trail maintenance or trail design or something. I mean, he did that about a year and a half ago, I think, when he first started for Styles and Hart. And that was really useful and interesting. And people who are professionals raise issues that I didn't know I would never even think of, you know. And so you really need somebody, if you're going to do a top-notch job that you really want to have uniform throughout the town, you really need that kind of professional help, I think. So I maybe what we need to do is, again, this might be another good joint discussion item with Parks and Rec and Concom, because a lot of these properties are theirs, to see if we can get buy-in on moving, you know, applying to CPC if all of the committees are behind it, and for the purpose of hiring consultants.
The only question that I have here is just what would that person, what would be their expertise when we hire someone that would do the sign? Like, what would be the?
Like Michael just mentioned, park designer, you know, I mean.
Yeah, there's signage and wayfinding consultants as well who would be able to know how to, you know, how to make the sign ADA accessible and compliant and all those things that you were talking about. They would know all the standards. And
Right.
you know, I think it would take maybe a committee on the town side, though, to work with them to select what we want it to look like, right? Like if we agree the interior to the park should look more wooden, like the kiosks that they have, that the Wildlands Trust actually has it, like Great River Preserve or something, we could say, you know, we kind of want to make it look kind of like this, and then they would, you know, be able to build on it. Because I don't know if that you know, who designed that, if that was a volunteer, if it's pretty well done, though, I will say. I think we talked about that interior to the parks, that kind of wooden kiosk is, you know, could be a possibility for following suit. I guess that was done by the Wildlands Trust, but it's nice. The one at the Great River Preserve, there's a few, and they do the same thing as they do down at the Ironworks. They talk about the history of the site, and then there's a trail map and, you know, all that other stuff. I think stuff about the wildlife that you would see there, and, you know, it's nice. It's really nice.
The other group of people we'd have to involve is the volunteers, because there are volunteers who have put up signs at Titicut, put up signs at Carver Pond, and we want to make sure that they were on board with doing this too. So, all right.
I think that the Boy Scouts historically have done a lot of the kiosks and the signs. So, and I think, I think that's great. And I would encourage that, but I think, you know, in terms of what Nicole was talking about, you know, sort of a designer that can give us sort of a template for signs, but also, you know, a template for kiosks, so that, you know, if we have a scout project and somebody wants to come in and build a kiosk, well, you know, here are the plans all set for you. All you have to do is really follow them. Because I wouldn't want to just sort of short circuit the volunteer, you know, that volunteer component of it at all.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Nice.
All right. Let's move on to water quality. So we haven't had a lot of discussion about this, except we did bring it up the last time that there's a study of invasive plant species at Carver Pond might be worth looking into. I don't know if there's a problem there per se, but I think that's probably something that we would need to do some investigation of. And Nicole, you mentioned that there are a lot of grants available for water quality from the state.
Yes.
And I think probably that would be one where we would need to get on the Concom agenda as well, with Carver Pond particularly. And I mean, maybe I've had a note for myself to call Harry Bailey to see what he knows about Carver Pond's water quality. Michael, do you know anything about it? Do we have any kind of a monitoring out there or anything?
That's a good question.
Monitoring probably wouldn't look an invasive species anyway, but.
Right. I know, obviously we have, daily testing of the water that comes out of the wells, right near Carver. But I don't know about, that, you know what, I could ask, we may have talked about this. I can ask the health agent. I doubt that we do any testing because it's not a swimming, it's not an area for swimming.
Oh,
But I can ask Eric Badger if that is something that the state does or if we do on occasion. BSU, we'll ask Sumacombe too. BSU uses Carver's Pond to for essentially a classroom. They do all kinds of work out there, just learning work.
That's a good point too. I bet you there's somebody at BSU who could probably comment or have some opinion at least about the water quality, if there's an invasive species problem.
Where did the invasives come up? Did somebody mention that?
Yeah, it came up at it was one of the meetings. I think it was it was a CPC meeting. Yeah, it was Bill, the Historic Commission Bill. He brought it up at a CPC meeting that I was just sitting in on a couple months ago and asked if there was any kind of water quality monitoring. And I know invasive species assessments is something that's been funded under some other town Community Preservation Act process. So I think that's what I remember about it, and I don't remember particularly the context that it came up in.
Okay, I will ask both Sue McComb over at BSU and then the health agent Eric Badger just to see if there's any consistent testing of that body of water.
Yeah, and I know there were a couple. I know they had someone was doing a lot of research over in Carver Pond on dragonflies a number of years ago. And I think there was a big kerfuffle when somebody went in and cut down all the weeds and grasses and everything that they've been tracking for 10 years or something. But anyway, yeah.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
I think the state made us go in and make some improvements to the dam. And you don't realize where the dam is. It's like the hole. And so we had to cut down all the bushes and all the trees that had started growing up on the dam. And I think I heard people complaining about that.
All right, and then the last item on the old business list is the Chapter 61 properties. Michael, I asked you about this when you and I met, that I found my note that you were making a presentation to the town council about 3 months ago, and you said you were doing an analysis of all the undeveloped properties in town as part of the fiscal year 22 budget review to predict future growth.
Right. And we
is that something that it seems like that would be really useful to us?
Yep. I can get you that. I'll have to go back and double check, what the report was that we pulled off from that. What we were trying to do, it was for not, it wasn't for open space purposes. It was really to try to identify, what our build out would look like. Yeah. And because once a build out occurs, then our annual new growth begins to shrink, substantially. So that was it was a financial projection exercise. But I can, I'll go back and pull that.
Yeah, it just seems like if it's a easy way to look at what's still out there. And I assume the Chapter 61 properties would probably be some subset of that.
Correct. So if you want to get a copy or you want to know all the properties that are chapter 60, 61, you can call the assessor's office and they will happily run you a report of every property that's in is a chapter land.
Oh, okay. All right, that's good to know.
Well, I'll tell them that they'll be very happy to run.
Okay. And Matt Rushton brought this up last night at the CPC hearing also. He asked specifically, you know, do we know what farm properties we have, and are we contacting the owners about what they're gonna do with it? And so there was some push for that coming out of that meeting last night too, so.
Eileen,
And I think Nicole may.
leave. I have my next meeting.
Oh, okay, Maureen, thank you.
All right, bye, everybody.
Bye, Maureen.
Hey,
Yeah, I also have to leave at 6, so.
Okay, all right. So I think that, you know, that's pretty much it. I think we've been through all of these old business items where I really wanted everybody to be able to hear what Michael had to say. Thank you very much, Michael. I'm just going to jump back up now to the, and actually most of this I probably covered. These issues that the new business, I was talking about this, the Community Preservation Committee Forum, that someone raised signage, someone talked about Jenny Leonard, Park Steward, so we covered all that. The other thing I just wanted to mention is the four Thursdays this past month, there's been an hour and a half open space conference session that I've attended 3 of them. They've been really good, very informative. Review of grant programs, creating trails, chapter 61 process. I'll send the links out there. They're all available online now. And I'll send the link out to all of you. And if you have an hour and a half sometime that you don't have anything to do and want to listen in, it's really informative. And then the other thing is I sent out the email today of the map that Kitty Doherty had sent out about the new Greenways Trail Plan. That was more just just interesting for all of us to see that map. I don't think we need to talk about it. And the last thing is, what about meeting on the 29th instead of the 22nd in April? Could we do that? And the reason is because I'm going to Cape Cod from Sunday through Thursday, and I could make it home by Thursday for the meeting, but I won't have done anything to prepare for it. So I'd really
I support
Yeah.
that because I'm away for April vacation, the 22nd.
Okay.
Everyone's going on
Finally.
vacation.
Yeah.
29th is
Yeah.
fine with me too.
29th is fine. All right, good.
Yeah, otherwise you would be rushing around
Yeah, it would
too
be
much
terrible.
to try
I
to
know.
get back
Right,
here.
right.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to be working on, you know, getting the agenda together and stuff. And I made those plans a long time ago when I was in a deep COVID funk, long before we set the 25th as our regular meeting time. So,
Yeah.
all right. I think that's it.
All right, well, hey, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And I got a couple of items on my list, and I'll get to those and circulate, you know, whatever info comes out of that.
Yes, it's really helpful having you be able to participate, Michael.
Yeah, thank you.
Please
Yeah,
make
thanks,
us a
Michael.
priority to the extent you can.
So nobody else wants me at their meeting, so I'll be happy to come to your meeting.
We're the fun meeting.
Yes, you are.
Meeting
Didn't
here.
I say
We're the-
that? This is the fun committee. This is you do good stuff at this committee.
Yes.
So that's true. All right.
Well,
No,
plus, I don't know, I just
happy.
feel like, I feel very new to all this stuff, and, you know, I just feel like it's a learning curve for most of us. Nicole probably is more well-versed in the issues than anyone else, but.
We all have something to contribute. We're all a team, so that's what it's all about.
Yeah,
Well, it's hard because it's a new commit, you know, basically a new committee. And it's, you know, none of you have really, I mean, Kevin's been involved, I think, Nicole a little bit, but you know, it's hard to come into a municipal committee, you know, sort of
Right.
blind, especially when it's a new committee.
nothing to pick up on, you know, just like
Exactly.
starting from scratch, and like, yeah, just that's the trouble. There are too many things and what to focus on. And plus, you know, I mean, every day I get an email from, well, I won't mention who, suggesting something else, you know, like, you guys need to do this, you guys need to do that. And it's like, I got 3 of them this afternoon, and I was.
The trick,
I think I could guess.
I might know who it's coming from.
Yeah, I could guess.
I feel like in town politics, the trick is you got to ignore 80% of the fluff and get the 20% of the cream on top of
So,
the cream of the crop, you know, and then that's what you
I think that's life. That's not just town.
that's
All right.
life. That's
Lesson
exactly.
on life. Meeting is adjourned.
All right.
All right.
Thanks,
All right,
everybody.
bye, everyone. Have a good
Bye.
night.
You
All right.
too.
Yeah. Bye-bye.